Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Back Nine Report. Every week, my co-host Fred Altvater and I get together and check in on the world of golf to bring you the latest news, insights, analysis, interviews, recaps, previews. Hey, we cover anything and everything golf. In other words, if it happened in golf, we have it for you. And this week, Fred, I don't think we can talk. I don't feel like talking about anything else that is not Masters. It's like we had the Masters finally after 19 months. We got a big time champion, Dustin Johnson, and we're going to talk about that, about Tiger Woods, about what everybody was talking about Bryson DeChambeau. Where was he? I don't know. Did he play in the Masters? I don't even know if he was there. But anyway, there's so many storylines that we have to cover. But hey, yeah, we do have some Par Five news. We have a VIG, very important guest of the week, Dr. Kathleen Miles, and we're going to talk about the amateurs and the impact that they do have in the tournaments. We have one of the pieces of news, and we'll talk about it. Is about Rose Chang that is was added to the U.S. Women's Open. So hey, welcome to the show, Fred. How are you this week?
Hey, Carlos, excited to be here tonight. Yeah, it's the week after the Masters. Kind of a letdown. It's going to be kind of slide into the end of the year here. A few things to talk about, but what a week of golf at Augusta. And like you said, we're going to cover it from beginning to end. I got about 2 pages of stuff, so we can go on and on about the Masters. There's a lot of interesting sidelines, a lot of interesting storylines actually this week at Augusta National. Tiger set a new record, although not one he's going to be real proud of. Sung J M and Cameron Smith hung tough, and John Rahm and Justin Thomas fell back to let Dustin Johnson get his green jacket, his second major. Really, really good stuff. Dustin is a worthy champion, and it was really good to watch. I got to watch quite a bit of it actually over the weekend, and yeah, I'm going to talk about it, but without the crowds there, the camera work was phenomenal. The low rising up around, it really showed off the humps and bumps and all the things that are there. So, um, Carlos, I'm a little bummed though that here in Michigan, the governor has closed the high schools, stopped the high school football playoffs just after our grandson's team won the district, was progressing in the state championship. So that was all exciting stuff. And now that's all on hold again. COVID's rearing its ugly head up here and the closed restaurants, bars, and bowling alleys again. So we're kind of shut down up here. We're not on a major shutdown, but we're getting close. So the good thing we have a lot of golf to talk about, and of course Dustin Johnson's place in golf is now secure. Carlos, 24 career wins, 2 majors. He will be in the Hall of Fame. Tiger had issues with number 12 on Sunday. Rory finished fast, but started really slow. And in the end, the Masters put on a wonderful show once again. Although it's November, getting close to Thanksgiving, the European Tour and the LP Tour have a little bit of golf left to finish. So, as always, Carlos, let's get to it. We've got a lot of golf to talk about. Let's go.
Let's get to it. And of course, we have to start with the weekend backspin. And the only thing in the weekend backspin, I think the whole show is the Masters. What else? Again, what else can we talk about? There's so much. You have 2 pages. I have 2 pages, some images here. I'm not going to show them because I don't think we have 5 hours to talk about the Masters this week. But hey, let's start by the winner, Dustin Johnson. I mean, I was I'm still in awe that why are we talking about him getting only and finally his second major? I mean, it's like you see what Dustin Johnson's career has been, and you would expect like he has like 7, 10 majors maybe because of how many things he has accomplished. But hey, he finally got the second major monkey off his back. So and he's playing when he does it big time. He just put on a master class of power and control. And it was quiet, of course, like you mentioned, there were no patrons there. Quiet November Sunday afternoon at Augusta. The world number one wrote his name in history after winning the Masters. You mentioned it, record passion. Why? Because he broke the 18 under par winning score that was set by Tiger Woods in 97 and Jordan Spieth tying it in 2015. The course was patronless, soft, playing longer than he usually would in April, but it was the usual DJ that we've come accustomed to seeing with a near faultless display throughout the whole week. Like I said, it was a masterclass, power and control. And now he owns rightfully a green jacket and will see himself returning to Augusta and every year for decades to come, as long as he is healthy, right? He carded rounds of 65, 70, 65, and 68 to finish at 20 under par for a five-stroke victory that really could have been more. I mean, you would see him, he was like in cruise control. He missed so many lip outs and so many easy shots that he had. This could have been easily a 10 shot victory and maybe a 25 under. Easily could have been that. That's how good DJ was doing it. He made it look simple. He held off the fearless 22-year-old Sung J M. Really, let me tell you, he really jumped up a lot in my ratings because he was really greedy there, and also Cameron Smith. I mean, for some time, I was asked by a friend, "Is that one of the amateurs there that is playing?" No, that's Australian Cameron Smith, and he was playing really well. I mean, there was a slow start to that final day. Saw him one over after 5 holes, but he birdied 6 and 8 to keep himself clear, and then made it easy. That finish after birdies at 13, 14, and 15, he put it away with the wind going up. It was by no means easy with both him and Smith showing no signs of reversing. While everybody else was just fading back, him and Smith were there. But DJ was the pure class, just like he has been since golf restarted in June. Since the COVID break, he has now added a green jacket to the FedEx Cup trophy, as well as the Travelers Championship. He's now 36 years old, and he's barely missed a fairway all week. He reminded us really just how great a major player he is. He hit 60 greens in regulations for the week, tying for the most in a singles Masters tournament. He might not have won enough majors, but he now has 11 top fives in golf's big four events, and his sensational Masters triumph will give him a huge confidence going forward. We can say now, right now, the next major in the men's is the Masters again in its normal schedule in April. He has to be the favorite. I mean, as long as he keeps playing the way that he is, Fred, I don't see him slowing down. He has now two majors, six WGC titles. You mentioned it, 24 PGA Tour wins. For Cameron Smith and Sung J M, they were second and 15 under par. Justin Thomas in fourth at 12 under, and Rory McIlroy tied with Dylan Fratelli one so far back. McIlroy, again, it seems like at the Masters, there's always one round that he really can make up for it. And this time it was that first round on Thursday, but he shot 14 under par for the final 54 holes after that opening 75. Really played himself out of the tournament there, but there was nobody better going down the stretch like Rory was
Carlos, that was
doing.
a 75. That probably should have been a 78 or 79.
It
That
should
was
have been
ugly. It
definitely.
was really ugly.
Definitely. He was just grinding out on Thursday. But incidentally, Cameron Smith becomes the first golfer in history to shoot 4 rounds in the 60s at the Masters. That's how good he was playing. But Fred, again, Dustin Johnson, amazing. We'll continue to talk about the other players, but I want to hand it over to you right now so we can talk about this top players, the top finishers. Uh, Dustin Johnson, masterclass there. The rest of the players very impressed by Sung J M and Cameron Smith. They really were there. They never gave up. Justin Thomas, John Ram, two of the favorites expected to play better, just couldn't get it done. They it felt like they were like skating there throughout the course, trying to get something going, but they couldn't do it. They faded on Sunday, and at some time, that the scoreboard looked like it was amazing. I mean, on Friday, you could still see a lot of players just within three strokes. So it could have been anything. It looked like it was going to be something like last year when Tiger finally got out on Sunday. Dustin Johnson did it since Saturday.
Well, how'd you like to be Cameron Smith? I become the first guy ever to shoot 4 rounds in the 60s at Augusta National. Oh, and I only lose by 5. Oh, great. Thank you very much. Thanks for playing. You win a nice consolation prize. You're going to come back next year. You're going to come back in April, actually. Um, DJ set a new record, 20 under par at Augusta. That's a new scoring record there. Ties the all-time low for any major championship. He beat Jack Nicklaus and Jordan Spieth's records by 2 shots. That was 18 under before. The soft conditions, Carlos. The golf course was so much different than we normally see it in April. There was no firmness. There was no speed in the fairways. Balls were plugging. That rain they got Wednesday and Thursday morning really just set the tone for the whole week. Even the sub-air systems running couldn't pull enough moisture out to firm things up. Rory even made a comment, part of his problem was that he would hit shots that thought would be all right, and they would just suck clear back off the front of the green because the greens were so soft. Normally those shots would have been just right. So it was a completely different deal, but they all play the same course, right? They all get 4 rounds at it. So they have to adjust. Golf is a game of adjustments. You mentioned Rory. I mean, Rory's round on Thursday was ugly. He hit some shots that looked like he was a beginner. I mean, they were ugly. And you told me at the end of the round he shot 75. I thought he shot about 80. It was really not very pretty. I got to tell you though, in his last few starts, Dustin Johnson has been runner-up at the PGA in August, won the Northern Trust, was runner-up at the BMW to Rahm, won the Tour Championship, T6 U.S. Open. He was off for COVID for a couple weeks, came back runner-up at Houston to Ortiz, and now the winner at Augusta. He secures his hold on #1 in the world golf ranking for sure. He's about 2.5 points now ahead of second place Rahm. DJ's place in golf now secure. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. When we look at his past finishes in majors, it is surprising. And, we can go back to the 2010 U.S. Open at Pebble Beach, where he had the 54-hole lead and shoots 80 and lets GMAC win that. We can go back to Whistling Straits when Keimer won the PGA there due to Dustin trying to play in the dark and hits what's supposed to be a bunker. All it is grass in a bunker because they were walking through it. And he didn't realize it. Grounds his club 2-stroke penalty. He loses that. He would have been in a playoff or could have won that. So, he could have had 2 more right there. In his last few, like the U.S. Open, well, let's talk about the Masters first. In his last 5 Masters, he missed 217 when he fell down the stairs and hurt his back, if you remember. But he's all top 10s in his last 5, of course, with the runner-up last year. In the U.S. Open, he had the win in 2016, finished T6 or better in 4 of the last 6 years in the U.S. Open. In the PGA, he was runner-up the last 2 years. The Open Championship is his worst major. He's only finished in the top 10 once in the last 6 years. That's probably going to be the hardest one for him to play. He's going to have to hit a little lower shot, learn to control the ball. I don't know that the cut's going to work for him there. When you hit a cut in that wind, it just knocks it down. That's what Matt Kuchar found a couple years ago when he's playing against Jordan Spieth. He's trying to hit that little fade there in the wind, and it just knocks it down. You've got to be able to draw the ball or hit a low punch shot on those link style golf courses where there's wind and they're firm and they're fast. So it's a little different golf. Only thing lacking in his resume right now is a PGA and an Open Championship. Plus, he hasn't won a Players, but something tells me he's going to be adding those sooner than later. All three top players in the world were tied for the 36-hole lead. I texted you. I said, "Look at this leaderboard. It was fantastic." It's Augusta National. It always brings those names to the top. Yes, there's probably out of the 93 guys, there's probably 35 that have no shot. Okay, and plus they lowered the cut line to 50 in ties this year, so that even took more guys out. So you don't have as many guys to beat as you have in a U.S. Open or an Open Championship for sure and probably the PGA at the Masters. So it's a little easier to win, but He really did it, as you say, masterfully. Um, and you got, when it all ended up, you've got the top four in the world, one, two, three, four, and then you've also got number 12, Kepka. We're up there near the top of the leaderboard. So Webb Simpson, who's number 6, finished T10, along with Patrick Reed, who's number 11, was at the top of the leaderboard as well. And Carlos, you talk about masterful. Johnson's Saturday round was nearly perfect. He hit every fairway, only missed one green. Driving was solid all 4 rounds. Kept waiting for him to make a mistake. He had just a couple little blips here and there. The front nine on number 5, he made that bogey. He drove it into the bunker. The ball went straight. It didn't cut for him off of the bunker. That's the only drive that he hit poorly all day. We've seen Dustin struggle in the past. Matter of fact, he was 0-4 when he held a 54-hole lead going into the final round in a major. So, as you say, sealed the deal with those birdies on 13, 14, and 15. That put enough space between he and the rest of the field that he just kind of cruised in. Carlos, Rahm, Justin Thomas, and Rory, they've all got to take a back seat right now to Dustin Johnson. He opened up a 2.5-point lead over Rahm, and there's no question he is number 1 right now.
It definitely is. And when you look at the leaderboard there, everybody was having one bad round at 72 or more all throughout. If you see, only the top players there were the ones who are 71s or less all throughout, and including Cameron Smith, who has that 67, 68, 69, 69. Amazing the way that he did it. Other players, like you mentioned, Kepka, very good comeback for him. He was solid, not great. He was just solid all throughout the week. 70, 69, 69, 70. There was a lot of international players doing very well. CT Pan there, it's Dylan Fratelli. Uh, we have Matsuyama, who always plays well
Fratelli was
here.
a surprise for me. How about you?
Oh, definitely, definitely. I mean, we've seen him in the European Tour. We've talked about him, but didn't expect him to play so well. And if you take away, if you see he had that 65 on Thursday to start, then he went to 73, pick it up on Saturday with 67 to put himself into contention. But then again, it was even par on Sunday. So he was up and down, but it really, really played very well. And for CT Pan, another player that we talked about in the European Tour, that 74 on Saturday took him out, but 68 at the end, really, really good. Um, Definitely surprising there. Abraham Answer from Mexico. Uh, there another player that we have talked about, and we talked when the President's Cup was coming, that this is a guy to look for. And I think, just to me, honestly, it was the stage on Sunday that really did himself, because he was there in that final group, and we couldn't see that 76. He, after 68, 67, 69, that 76 on Sunday, he really did it.
He had
But
three
if
or
you
four bogeys on the front nine, and that just he missed a little putt and early in the round, and that just kind of did him in, Carlos.
Yeah, and all the other players, Shoffley, Cantley, we saw them going average all the time. I mean, having good rounds, just not great. It was just that Dustin Johnson, the one there. But let's talk about two players that we have to talk about. First, the guy that everybody was talking about, the guy that made the headlines going into the tournament. That was Bryson DeChambeau, and everybody thought he was going to just blow away the competition. What was I saying at the beginning? I didn't even expect him to show up. I told you a month ago he's not going to do anything on the Masters, and let me tell you why. Everybody was talking about, oh, he's driving the ball. He was showing all these things. Driving is not everything. That's why I'm so happy. I've been saying driving. Did he mention how much he was putting, doing his second shots, how much he was trying to play outside of the bunker? No, it was all driving. And as long as he keeps doing that, he's not going to win this type of tournaments. Yeah, it was good for the U.S. Open, but he's not going to do it in Augusta. And Augusta, and I'm going to give you later what the things I think were good about Augusta and what were bad. But one of the things, it held up for this type of players. Everybody expecting him to blow the field, not me. He went 70, 74, 69 was his best day on Saturday, but then 73, he was just scrambling all the time, had bad shots, bad holes, multiple bogeys there. So I don't know how you saw Bryson. To me, it was just as advertised to me. I said it all along. He doesn't have what it takes. If it's all about driving it long, that was not gonna fly here in Augusta.
He really made some very bad mistakes. Every day, every day he made mistakes. Just missing chip shots and choosing the wrong club and leaving himself on the wrong side of the green. It just really bad mistakes that a pro should not make. He had this excuse. Well, I was dizzy and I was having trouble. I got his answer. He's going to go to the doctor, get some tests. I can tell him what's wrong. Eat a couple cheeseburgers, Bryson. Quit drinking 15 protein shakes. You got too much of that crap in your body. That's not good for you. You're not supposed to do that kind of stuff. Eat some real food once in a while and you'll feel a lot better. You can't gain 40, 50 pounds in about 3 months and expect to feel right. Your body cannot accept that. So it's real simple. Just start eating right, Bryson, and quit worrying about throwing on some more pounds, man. Yeah, you were right. I mean, he was a real flop. It just, I would rather talk about the 63-year-old guy, Bernhard Langer. What about Bernhard? 63, 4 under to make the cut, ends up going 1 over on the weekend. Oldest player to make the cut at Augusta. He's old enough to be some of those guys' grandfather, Carlos.
He is, but hey, he knows how to play around Augusta National, and he keeps himself in shape. And that,
63, though. 63. He's not
but
supposed to be out there.
look at what he's still doing in the Champions Tour. I mean, that's just a testament of what golf is all about. It's an lifelong sport. You can play it at any age, and Bernhard Langer definitely is the epitome of what a golfer should just aim for throughout his the length of his life. I don't see Bryson DeChambeau being as healthy all
No.
that long at all, going that way that he's doing it. I don't think
You
so.
have to be so dedicated to diet, fitness, work ethic every day to be in the shape to be able to do what Bernhard Langer is doing at the age of 63. We've seen him do this for 13, 14 years on the Champions Tour and keep himself in this kind of condition. The guy looks like he's about 45, but the dedication you have to keep yourself like that, I don't know how he keeps it. I don't know how he stays motivated.
Me neither. And uh, hey, it's just an inspiration for everybody. If you think you're out of it just because you're getting older, hey, just go for it. And another old guy, Tiger Woods, right? Uh, uh, he teased us at the beginning of the tournament. He was right there. He had his best starting initial round. It had everybody buzzing. He's still there. He's hanging around, but he really shit himself out of contention the weekend, especially on Sunday. That 12, like you mentioned, I'm gonna let you talk about that record 12 in the 12 hole. I mean, it was surreal to see him struggle that way, Tiger Woods in that hole. But after that, I guess he was so mad, so mad, and maybe embarrassed about what happened to him. I mean, all he did was just birdie 5 of the last 6 holes. That
But
easily.
that's what great
That,
champions do, right, Carlos? They face that adversity, they get mad at themselves, they dig deep, and they just do stuff that no other human can do. I mean, he dumps 3 in the water at 12. The wind came up. He said he threw the ball up in the air. The wind changed and just knocked it right out of the air. He said it was stupid. He should have hit a different shot, but it just knocked it right down the pond. He goes up there, hits from the drop area, leaves it short, rolls back in. another drop, hits it into the bunker over the green. Coming out of the bunker, he sculls it back into the water, has to go back over and drop it again. Ends up making a 10, highest score ever recorded for a professional on a par 3. A 10. He goes from 3 under to 4 over on one hole. Then he proceeds to birdie 14, or I'm sorry, he
13.
birdies 15. I'm sorry,
13, then
18,
13, and then
14.
15 through 18.
Yeah, he birdies 5 of the last 6 holes, which is just nobody. Carl Schwartzel birdied 4, and everybody made a big deal out of it to win. Remember a few years ago?
Yeah.
Tiger birdies 5 of the last 6. If he just makes a par there, he's top 10. It's just I don't know. He's just so phenomenal. But I got to tell you, Carlos, one thing I did notice. So he got rained out. He started late on Thursday because of the delay. So he only got in 9 holes on Thursday. So he was out there till dark, till 5:30. Then he has to go eat dinner, go home, go to bed. He has to get up at 3:30 to start working out to get loosened up so he can make a 7:30 tee time. Okay. Or to go back out at number 10 to hit his second shot. Because he didn't, they stopped there because they didn't, or I'm sorry, number 11. He had to hit a second shot number because he didn't want to have to go to 12 and hit that tee shot in the dark. So they stopped play right there on the fairway at 11. He was in the rough, ends up making his par. That's fine, get going. But then he plays like 8 holes, 8.5 holes, 7.5 holes. Then he has to turn right around and play another 18. And during that second round, he got stiff. Walking up down those hills, making those swings, starting that early in the morning, he got stiff. I don't know if you noticed or not, but he was walking very gingerly. He was having trouble bending over, getting the ball out of the hole. And he kept the thing together. And so he went to the weekend at, I think, 4 or 5 under, but he couldn't get more under. He should have made a run on the back 9, and he couldn't do it because his back was too stiff. And that's where he lost the tournament right there. But for him to come back and put on the exhibition that he put on after making that 10 on number 12, that was phenomenal stuff, Carlos.
Most definitely. And now let's challenge you to do this. Let's talk about some good takeaways, good things that you take away from the Masters this year, and then we'll talk about, to close it, about some negatives that we think we saw there. So first of all, I mean, DJ, now he's halfway to a career Grand Slam. He's no longer, everybody was talking about, he's just one major club, and part of that one major club, which to me was ridiculous for a guy of his skills. Maybe we can joke now about his champions dinner in April. Sandwiches for everyone here, all around sandwiches. But anyway, he's back. He's going to be part of Augusta Furniture forevermore. And when he's old and gray, he'll still be strutting into the dinner on the Tuesday night from now on. Okay, so now the 13th and 15th held up. The par fives are always going to rank as the easiest holes. They were ranked second. That was the 18, eighth for the 15, 13 for the 16, and 15 for the 17. But they weren't the pushovers that we were led to believe when listening to Bryson DeChambeau's yardage in practice. One of the abiding memories of 13 was, the American getting into all sorts of bother behind the green on Thursday when a 7-iron from the pine straw didn't behave itself. That's 7-iron. Why are you doing this to me? But anyway, we hear so much about the new tee there, but for this week at least it stood up to the modern game. Likewise for the 15, as the water behind the green played as much a part of things held by some newfound rough skirting the fairway as its more famous sibling at the front of the green. Now, gotta tell it, the Masters website and the app. Back in the day, we used to watch the very odd shot on the front 9 before talking into the back 9. These days, we can watch every shot going. That was what I was doing. I wasn't anywhere. I was working, but I had my iPad here with the app watching it. I mean, we had this last year, and it was a stunning addition to our viewing habits, and it continued to be our faithful ally throughout 4 long days. There's a lot of money behind the Masters, but even still, this is a fantastic addition to any major. And this year, we also had even drone footage to give us an idea of the scale and routing the plays. Even the most dedicated Masters aficionado should have learned about something about Augusta this year. So definitely kudos to them. I mentioned at the beginning the international golf. I think is at a great place right now after this week because early in the week, like I mentioned, Cameron Smith was confused with one of the amateurs. Come the end of it, he made master history, like we have already mentioned, by becoming the first player to shoot in the 60s for all 4 rounds. There's always a bit of snobbishness towards non-American players, which isn't helped by the biennial defeat to the Americans in the President's Cup. But then you get to watch Smith and Sung Jae Im, both tied second, play for 4 days the grandest stage, and opinions quickly change. Definitely mine did. You might have won on the PGA Tour, but this is the Masters. And now we'll take you seriously. It was also a cracking week for Dylan Fratelli, CT Pana, Abraham Answer. And you already talked about him. I mean, Bernard Langer, this guy is a phenom. People talk about bodies breaking down in the 40s, but the Langhaar one, the Germinator, 63 years old. This was a slog of a course, which was playing even longer for everybody. Imagine for somebody that's 63 years old, a week hampered by the weather, and he emerged from it with a 300 total. In his first round, he hit a wooden club 23 times, 23 times, and was still
Did,
in the round in the 68.
did you see him
And
on number 5 on Thursday? On number 5, he couldn't get near the bunker, that everybody was driving it past or up to. He was way short of that. He was 80 to 100 yards behind, like Dustin Johnson or those guys would be right off the tee. I mean, he's hitting at 250, 260, and they're hitting at 340, 330. And he hits driver 3 wood, and the only thing he could do was get it into the front bunker at number 5. That's all the farther he could get it. I mean, it's like watching me play, because the distance just isn't there. And then he gets a terrible lie in that bunker and not able to get it out. But the distance was so great. But he knows his places where he can excel and do well there at Augusta, and he takes advantage of those.
just to close it up on the positives, to me, if you see in round three, he had to watch Roy McIlroy thump at 80 yards past him. On Sunday, he had Bryson DeChambeau for company, and he outscored him 71 to 73. This was an education in grit and course management, and for someone who has had countless battles with the yips, he finished the week in T5 for putting. So that's just what it takes. That was to me the great takeaways from Augusta this week. How about you?
Well, Carlos, in the fall, we didn't have the flowers, we didn't have patrons, the greens were slower. It rained on Thursday, made the course soft all 4 days. But that being said, it didn't disappoint, did it? It's still Augusta. It's still beautiful. It's still fantastic. It's a major. Um, the things that I guess got my attention was the first thing was the camera work. I was so impressed with the drone footage and with the low angle cameras because there were no fans there. They were able to get low below the hills, the runoff areas, and come up and show exactly how those greens are mounded and the elevation changes in the greens. I thought was done magnificently. I'm sure they'll win an Emmy for their camera coverage. It was really really good stuff. Um, Without the, there was just so many things I can't. I struggle to say all the good ones. It's still the Masters. It's just something about it. You got to watch it. You can't turn away. And TV fans watched it. Okay. The final numbers are in, and the numbers for Thursday and Friday and Saturday are all close to what it would normally be on a regular April Masters coverage without college football and without all the other stuff going on. Sunday's numbers were down a little bit because of NFL football, but still for the week it was very, very strong. And I have to give big kudos to Augusta National, the PGA Tour, CBS, and ESPN for putting this thing together and getting it done and getting it done right. Even the lead-in videos, Carlos, coming out of commercial break, those little lead-in videos I thought were so cool. I enjoyed watching those. So I I'm just amazed with what they do. They watch every little detail. Oh, one thing I want to make too and talk about was the rough. So there was a lot more rough than we normally saw. You talk about 13 and 15. A lot of guys were finding that rough on the side of the hill. They were either driving it too long, like on 13, going into the pine straw, which they can play off of, but the rough was catching a lot of shots, and they can't play out of that stuff. Going for the green from that, even though they were like 210 or so over the creek, just was too much carry, and they weren't doing it there. So we saw a lot more laying up on 13 and 15 than we normally do.
Oh, definitely, and it changed everything, and that takes me the lead off to the things that I didn't like. But again, uh, the rain delay. I mean, I gotta give it to Augusta. It required a huge effort to get the job done in 4 days, and they deserve a huge credit for that. When you have quick turnarounds and 2D starts, however, a lot of the build up and anticipation is lost. But hey, it's no one's fault. It's just Mother Nature being Mother Nature. There's nothing they could do about it. The mud balls, yeah, the play the ball as it lies and all that. But the pre-tournament rain, rather made getting a mud ball a bit of a lottery at times. We were never likely to see lift, clean, and place at Augusta National, were we? But uh, would it have been so bad as it was? I don't know. Anyway, again, and I think you would agree with me, no patrons. As annoying as they are with their little shares and happy faces, how this year's Masters missed those famous roars that reverberate around the pines and help make it such a special tournament. We missed that. And for somebody like Dustin Johnson, who finally won his second major and the way that he did it, not have anybody there at 18 roaring for him. That really sad. Well, maybe next year we'll see them there. I'm about to finish. And the color, I mean, yeah, the foliage sadly just wasn't that beautiful in November. We're always in the spring. I mean, still Augusta look glorious. It does even when there's snow in the course. However, roll on April when all the brilliant colors return. That's what I want to be. And finally, a back nine scrap. Fred, the 2020 Masters won't be remembered as a classic. Dustin Johnson spoiled us, at least for the neutrals, but of course, it's a compliment for he was excellent.
Yeah, you talk about the soft conditions. This is really where it really went off the rails for Bryson on number three when he hit that drive out there. And we all saw it on TV. We saw exactly where it went, but it was so soft there. The ball was so high, it came straight down and it just plugged down in underneath the grass and you could not see it. They had 10 guys looking in this area for, I mean, you could see on TV where it was, okay?
It's
There
there.
should be a
It's
rule.
there.
There should be a rule for that, okay? It's not out of bounds. It's not a loss. It's right there. Drop one, no penalty, move on, okay? That was, I have to take Bryson's side on that. That is really bad, and it really got in his head. He ends up making a seven on that hole, a triple, which I love number three. Number three is my favorite hole in the golf course. Everybody talks about 12, 13, 15, all this stuff. Number three, I could stand there and watch every group come through. Maybe turn around and look at number four once in a while because number four is so hard. It's unbelievable. But number three is the coolest little par four in the world. Doesn't get near enough credit. But that hole really cost Bryson DeChambeau a lot. and really got in his head. So I just wanted to get that in there. But Carlos, yeah, there was a lot that had to be done to get this thing in. Everybody did a masterful job. They put on a great tournament. Guess what? Now I'm counting the days until April again, Carlos.
Definitely. That's what I was just gonna say. I right now, that's it. When is the Masters coming up? That's what we're waiting. We were waiting for this one. Can't wait to see how things hopefully will be somehow back to normal in April. Confident about that. We'll
And
see how
hopefully
it
I get to
goes.
go back there again.
All right. So with that, we'll close the recap of the biggest tournament of the year, which is the Masters. Now let's talk about what's going to happen this week in the forecall or a previews for this weekend's action. You know, the Dustin Johnson win at Augusta National Golf Club has barely set in, but there's already time for another PGA Tour event. And as DJ said after his win on Sunday, you know, the season really never ends for professional golfers, right? And there's no better representation than this week's RSM Classic that's going to be played at the Sea Island Golf Club in St. Simon's Island, Georgia. We have a great field. I mean, that is because you can attribute that to the proximity to the Masters, which is just this week. The RSM Classic will be hosted right now for them is the best field they have ever hosted. And it's not even really that close, really, for how good it is to what it used to be. Though this is not an unusual date for this tournament, the Masters obviously it's not normally played the week before. So because players are already in the general vicinity, some from Australia, Europe, and other parts of the world, there's a bit of spillover effect this week. Sea Island. Now, if you go there for the course, well, it's not the same as Augusta National. Whereas last week it was a bit of a bomber's paradise, although far more nuanced than that because it's Augusta National. This week, it barely stretches past 7,000 yards, which is why you've seen winners like Chucky Howell, Mackenzie Hughes, Robert Streff, and Kevin Kisner. Finally, it will be a nice diversion from the long drive contests we have been seeing on the tour. The favorite has to be Webb Simpson. He's the big favorite, and with a reason. I mean, he's coming off a top 10 at the Masters, and he's the all time leader in strokes gained at this event. He finished in the top three in each of the last 2 years and lost to Tyler Duncan in a playoff 1 year ago. Now he's going to encounter a much stiffer field this time around, but this and the Wyndham Championship, that's where Webb feast on. And I said it was a great field, but why is it a great field? Well, normally this event is highlighted by somebody like Webb Simpson, who's a great player, but he can't carry an event on his own. So joining him this year, Fred Jason Day, Justin Rose, Tyler Hatton, Louis Heisen, Tommy Fleetwood, Shane Lowry, and Matthew Fitzpatrick. Again, it is heavy on the European side, which is awesome for a tournament like this that normally mostly includes American, which seemingly about half of them live there in Sea Island. So, how about this tournament, the RSM Classic? Really good tournament field now, right after the Masters.
Well, they got a full complement of 156 players. They're using two courses there for the first 2 days until they do the cut down to 65 and ties. So they got a bunch of guys there. So you're going to have some guys coming out at top of the leaderboard, that names that you're probably not familiar with at all, even though there's a lot of really good names there. Lee Westwood is even there. So Ian Poulter, a lot of really good names there. I'm just going to tell you about a couple here. You got, of course, Sea Island is home to a lot of touring professionals, but Pan had a good week at the Masters. Look for him to have a good week this week. Alex Noren lives out there. Brian Gay, Zach Johnson, Brian Harmon. They're all familiar with the area. Denny McCarthy had a good year here last year. Mackenzie Hughes won here a couple years ago. Corey Connors has been playing well of late, T10 at the Masters, so he could be a force. Russell Henley has a bunch of top 10s here. And then a guy that we're just starting to talk about, Sebastian Munoz, has been very impressive of late. He had T8 in the FedEx Cup. He's had 4 top 25s, including T19 at the Masters. So, and he was solo third here last year, so he might be a guy to watch this week. So, Carlos, like you said, really good field. Sea Island is a great place. Beautiful out there, and should be a good event. Got a bunch of guys to watch this week.
Got a good bunch of guys to pull to see, and I really normally I'm like, let's see what's gonna happen with the RSM. But this week, given the players that are there, it seems like it's shaping up to be a very good tournament. Now let's move on to the other side of the pond, where in the European Tour, there's going to be the Joburg Open, where it's South Africa's Brendan Stone can be the favorite. Maybe he can secure a popular victory. Austria, Portugal, and Cyprus have all hosted back-to-back European Tour events this year, part of a patchwork schedule driven by necessity towards what is an uncertain climax. Now in November, at least it feels safe to say the end of this part of the journey does have a destination, remains in Dubai. Now, the final stop before we get there's familiar too, although someone has to put the puzzle pieces back in the wrong boxes. As a result, we begin 3 weeks in South Africa with the return of the Joburg Open, which is the course, which is placed at the same course that hosted the South Africa Open as recently as January. We ended not with an Edback challenge, yet nevertheless at Sun City for another South African Open, with a second trip to Leopard Creek, splitting the two. Now, why is this important? Because for most of the locals and all of the Sunshine Tour players who help complete these fields, there's no need to worry about Dubai. But for many of the internationals and one or two of the South Africans, that end of the season goal remains a goal. So there to get there, you have to be 60th of or better on the race to Dubai. In theory, at last, because at least because who knows whether that line will move if and when Patrick Farid, who's first, Colin Morikawa, who's third, Tony Finau, 35th, and even Rory McIlroy, right now 16th, decline the opportunity to head to the Middle East, which is something that is widely expected at this time. So for now, it's less worry less about that and more about the Joburg Open. So Fred, how about the Joburg Open in Europe in the European Tour, which is really starting to get close for that race to Dubai finale, where a lot of those internationals that have been playing there really would like to have their chance to be playing.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see the big names that are over here playing that are just here for the Masters. I don't think you're going to see them, the big Europeans, going back there to wrap up a couple weeks in South Africa and then go up to Dubai for the final. So you're going to what you're going to see coming out of here is who you're going to see probably in Dubai out of the next couple of weeks. I don't see Patrick Reed going over there. I don't see some of those guys. I think Morikawa is up in the top 10 of the race to Dubai, and I just don't see it happening. So you covered most of the points about the Joburg Open that I was going to talk about. This tournament, it's the first time it's been back on the schedule since like 2018. It has been off, so they were able to get this added back in since we were going to be down there, kind of keeping that bubble kind of thing where they're keeping everybody together for the next few weeks. So, yeah, the European Tour has ended up piecing a schedule together. They're going to be closing out here in a few weeks, but yeah, get up early in the morning and watch golf from South Africa, Carlos.
Yeah, I won't be doing that. I'll be sleeping. Anyway, let's talk about the other tournament on the schedule, and I'm really excited. It's a new tournament, but why am I excited? Yin Yoko is back on tour. She's looking for the nearest Korean market right now. I can tell you that. The world's number one. I still can't believe that she's still number one. Well, she learned to cook during her prolonged break from the LPGA. I is in need of several spices, to whip up evening meals. But the inaugural Pelican Women's Open Championship marks her first start on the LPGA in 2020. She played in 6 events in the Korean LPGA this season, carding 4 top 10. So it's not like she hasn't been playing or doing nothing. But she isn't the only Korean making a comeback this year, which I'm excited for because the other one is Young Hyun Lee 6. She last competed on the LPGA in Australia last February and makes her return in Florida, gearing up for a title defense at next month's U.S. Women's Open. Lee Six clearly spent time on her English lessons during the downtime, because if you saw those interviews with her, she answered many of the questions in her pre-tournament press conference without the aid of an interpreter. Last time we saw her, she needed it. Now she was just on her own talking. In addition to her English tutor, she also credited her recent improvement to the Netflix show Emily in Paris. Yeah, anyway, whatever it works. I remember when I went to Curacao the first time for business, and they would speak Spanish perfectly. And I was like, "Wow, how you learned that?" Oh, Venezuelan telenovelas. Well, whatever, man. It helps you, whatever it is. Anyway, Kel also answered most questions in English these days, too, surely aided by the constant presence of her English caddy recent months. But Fred, uh, this is a very good tournament looking with those two players adding to what is already a good field. So, new tournament, big time players coming here. What's your take on it?
Do you think Jin Young Ko will pick right up and be the force that she was before?
Totally, totally. I think both her and Young Lee Six are just gonna pick up where they were. Uh, they are really, this is like their step up to get to the U.S. Women's Open, and we can just see. I mean, it wasn't like they were not playing; they were doing really well in the Korean LPGA. So I expect them to just keep playing the way that they were doing.
Yeah, all the big names. I talked to Mike May a little bit. Mike's there setting up the scoring for. He works for the company that sets up the scoring for the tournaments, and he's all fired up. I mean, a tremendous field there. You got Lexi Thompson in the field, Jessica Corda, Brittany Lincecum, Brittany Altamare. Just pretty much everybody is there. They're playing for 1.5 mil, 225,000 first place purse. You've got 8 of the 13 champions from this year are there. You got 10 of the 19 rookies are there. So you've got a really good field. It's a new event. I'm going to try and watch some of it, Carlos.
Most definitely, that's the tournament I am gearing forward to see this weekend. But with that, we wrap up our previews for this weekend's action on the four call. So, Fred, tell us a little bit about Boeing Resorts.
Yeah, Carlos, the people of Boyne are very happy with the cold nights and snow on the ground this time of year, but want to assure everyone that they have hot pricing on golf trips for buddies groups and girls golf getaways, as well as family vacations. They had a very good year in 2020, and with the planned improvements for next year will be even better. Visit boyne.com/golf to check out the best package for you and your group. Boyne's 10 courses, 3 spas, and variety of outdoor activities will please any golfer or family member. Carlos, BOYNE.com/golf. Boyne. Check it out. It's a great place.
All right, now let's go to the Par 5 news. Every week we pick some pieces of news worth mentioning. And the first one we're going to talk about is the Tolheim Cup. Why? Well, it will move back to even years starting in 2024 to avoid a clash with the Ryder Cup. With the Ryder Cup moving to 2021 because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the organizers had previously announced that the men's match play event would permanently then remain on odd years going forward instead of doing what the Solheim Cup is doing. So that forced the Solheim Cup committee to announce this last Monday their plan to go to even years as a result. If you might remember, the Solheim Cup was first played in 1990, remained on even years rotation until 2003. That move came about the same thing. The Ryder Cup switched to even years after September 11, postponed the competition the 2001 to 2002. So while the future dates will be spread apart, the next two stagings offer a unique opportunity because this next year, the Solheim Cup is going to be in Toledo, Ohio. And we expect to
Where?
be there. We're
Where?
going to be in Toledo, Ohio. And
No
that's
way.
just 3 weeks ahead of the Ryder Cup at Whistling Straits in Wisconsin. Then 2 years after, 2023, heads to Spain for the first time, 1 week ahead of the Ryder Cup's debut in Rome. The dates and the venue for the 2024 Solheim Cup will be announced at a later date, Fred, and that's to be expected. I mean, they just made the change, so now it's just to see where it's going to be played back in the States in 2024, and then the rest of the locations should fall apart. Should just follow after.
Yeah, I just this just came through the other day. Kind of surprising, but it makes sense. I guess the President's Cup's not a big deal, but they don't want to be in the same year with the Ryder Cup, right? Yeah, we're really looking forward to the 2021 event coming up here in less than a year now, Carlos, and should be fantastic. We'll be having Solheim people on throughout the year next year, talking about the build up, what's going on, and what to look for Inverness in the Solheim next fall. So I think this is probably a good move. I'm sure it makes some logistics a little bit different, but you'll have back to back. We'll have it in 2023, and then right away again the next year, 2024. So should be kind of cool, Carlos.
I think that's the interesting point. How are you going to make the qualifications back to back years? Because it usually takes 2 years for you
Yeah,
to
you're gonna
do
have a
the
lot of the
points.
same players, aren't you?
So yeah, so I don't know what they'll do, but it'll be interesting to see how the logistics fall into place on that one. Now we're going to talk about the amateurs, and this is a topic that we're going to be expanding on a little later on the show on the practice range and our VIG. But as you know, amateurs at the Masters are one of the tournament's great long-standing traditions. But amateurs at a major is not a storyline unique to Augusta National. After the Masters ended on Sunday, there will be still at least one more major in the 2020 calendar. That is the U.S. Open, U.S. Women's Open. Amateurs in this major present equally thrilling stories. Last year, Gina Kim finished T12 at the Country Club of Charleston. She was 1 under and 5 shots back. Earlier this fall, at the ANA Inspiration, another LPGA major, Rose Chang finished tied for 11, just 7 shots off the winning score, 15 under. She was recently named the Mark H. McCormack Medal winner for playing her way to the top of the world amateur rankings and leads the list of amateurs who have earned an exemption into the U.S. Women's Open that's going to be played in December 10 to the 13 at the Champions Golf Club in Houston. 13 of the top 20 amateurs joining the field will be making their U.S. Women's Open debut, with Alison Corpus at number 27, a fifth-year senior at the USC, the only amateur playing her third U.S. Women's Open. But Fred, with the addition of these players, 24 amateurs are currently in the field. Gabriela Rumpfels, we can mention about her, Angelina Yee, who's the U.S. Girls Juniors champion, and Ina Shad, the U.S. Women's Mid Amateur, who was the won the USGA champion, and also, by the way, Emily Toy, who won the 2019 Women's Amateur Champion conducted by the RNA.
Yeah, as we're going to talk more a little bit more about amateurs later in the show, but this is always an aspect of, like the U.S. Men's Open or the U.S. Women's Open. You go through the qualifiers, and it doesn't matter if you're an opener, an amateur, or professional. If you shoot the lowest score, you get in the tournament. And so to maintain that atmosphere of amateurs involved in the tournament, the USGA has set up, has invited these 20 young women amateurs to compete in the U.S. Women's Open that's coming up here in a few weeks. So kudos to them. I think it's good stuff. Some of these young ladies would have qualified anyhow because they're that good. But it takes the pressure off them. They can get out and get practice and get ready to go. And it's always fun to see that one or two amateur. And we forgot to talk about that in the Masters part. Maybe we'll talk about it later in the show. But Augustine and Ogletree put on a great show at the Masters as two amateurs that made the cut. I didn't think any amateur would make the cut. We all said that on the show last week, that we didn't think that would happen. But there's some really good amateurs out there, Carlos, and at any time they can put together 2 or 3 or 4 really good rounds and pop up on leaderboards.
It has happened maybe more often in the women's than it has happened in the men, and that's what makes it so interesting to see, especially lead by Rose Yang. Let's see how she does in the U.S. Women's Open. Now, talking about the NCAA, the Division One men's and women's golf committees has selected Omni La Costa Resort and Spa, Southern California's premier golf and luxury resort destination, as the host for the 2024 and 2026 Division One men's and women's golf championships. The play will be conducted on the resort's famed Champions Course, following what is a planned 2022 renovation by acclaimed course architect Gil Hans. So, Fred, the event's debut at Omni La Costa will mark the Division One's Women's Golf Championship return after a 28-year absence to Southern California, while the Division One Men's Golf Championship was last played there at the Riviera Country Club in Pacific Palisades in 2012. So, how about this move? I mean, uh, Gil Hans gets to renovate those golf courses. He's very well known, so the NCAA players will get to experience what is to play there at one of those courses, renovated or made by Gil Hans. Who really, I'm looking forward to see what he can do there at the Omni.
Yeah, Hans is becoming a very busy boy, isn't he? After designing the course in Rio for the 2016 Olympics, he did Trump's course down there at the Monster down there in Doral in Miami. He's been working on the East Course right there near you at the new PGA headquarters in Frisco. That's going to host the 2027 and 2034 PGA championships and possibly a future Ryder Cup there. His recent works also include major championship venues like West and East courses at Winged Foot, the North course at Los Angeles Country Club, the East course at Marion, also Olympic in San Francisco. I mean, those are really big names, right? And so he's probably the leading guy right now. If you want a championship venue and you want it done right, you're probably trying to get Gail Hans to come and do it for you. But yeah, Carlos, it's been a while, and now so the NCAA is trying to get a neutral site. A lot of times the NCAA's have been played on one of the college's home courses, and they're trying to get away from that. And so they're going to hold 3 years in a row at La Costa, 2024, 2025, and 2026. The men's will be held 1 week, the women's will be held another week. They're not the teams that are going to be in. They're not going to be allowed to play on that golf course all year. They're supposed to stay off of it. So when they come there, everybody has an equal shot at playing the same golf course and having the same knowledge of it. So that should be very good. Kudos to the NCAA for trying that. Actually, I always felt it was a little bit unfair when you're holding the national championships at the University of Oklahoma's home golf course. That just doesn't seem to fit quite right. So that being said, they were years ago. They were at Scarlet at OSU. Back when I was in school, actually, I think it was 1974, maybe. I remember Curtis Strange was there and Jay Haas. A lot of the guys back then were playing in that. They were in college. And so I went out and watched it a couple of days, actually. But yeah, the NCAA is trying this neutral course deal. Gil Hans is going to design it. They're going to be there 3 years in a row.
I think it's a great idea. Great idea because you take out the home field advantage and it's the same course for everybody, unknown to everyone. So it's really, really nice. And finally, Fred, tell me about this. Trump has been facing scrutiny everywhere. So why not in the golf course as well? I mean, right now he's facing scrutiny because Turnberry financing from the Scottish government. And what is this? What's going on? I mean, everything's coming on
You
to him
gotta feel
now, right?
sorry for Donald, right? He just lost his job, catching all this crap, nobody will leave him alone. And now the Scottish government is asking for due accountability. So the First Minister of Scotland has requested financial records on how he bought and financed Turnberry when he bought it. I don't know why that's a big deal, but the Scottish leader said she wouldn't protect the soon-to-be former president of the United States. So now you're not president anymore. Everybody's going to take a shot at you, right? You can't do anything for me, so I'm gonna make it rough on you. So they're going to do an investigation, including an unexplained wealth order that would be up to the Crown Office, the independent public prosecution system in Scotland. So Trump's attorneys will get a lot more work, looks like. This guy, Patrick Harb, who is a Green Party leader, I'll bet he's a real do-gooder. You got to love this guy, right? He raises suspicions because neither Turnberry, which lost 26 million in 2016, nor Aberdeen has turned a profit or paid a penny in taxes in Scotland since Trump. Now there's where it's all about, right? He's not paying any taxes. The guy's a billionaire. He owns these golf courses here, and he's not paying us any taxes. And he wants to complain about the windmills off the coast or something. We're going to get this guy. So, yeah, I don't know. It makes good press, but Turnberry last hosted the Open in 2009. Donald would like to get it back there, but he's got so much negative stuff going on right now. It's going to be a while for the R now. I'll come back to Turnberry, Carlos.
Yeah, everybody's making fire out of the fallen tree, right? So, it's just what it is. And they can't, to me, it's ridiculous, really, that what they're trying to get there, because, yeah, they haven't made any profit. Duh. I mean, so that's why they're not paying taxes. And what if he's not making profits, but you have other properties somewhere else? You just can move money from somewhere else to just keep this one open. It's just ridiculous. But anyway, I guess it's
Doesn't
just
he hire employees there? Doesn't he
yeah.
have greenskeepers? Doesn't he have waiters, waitresses, pros, managers? Doesn't he buy products from Scotland that he puts through his places there? I bet he pays a little bit of tax on all that stuff. Do they take that into account? No. So that's all I'm going to say about it.
I think there's nothing else to say.
You don't want to get me started. You do not want to get me started, Carlos.
No. I won't. Anyway, let's move on now to our very important guest of the week, our VIG. This evening is Dr. Kathleen Miles. She has been a college golfer, coached the women's golf team at Georgetown. In fact, she was named the Big East Coach of the Year twice, and knows the college golf industry inside and out. She was kind enough to chat with Fred about her current business, Golf Globally, that helps young athletes choose the right college program for them to start their golfing careers. So, Fred, tell us a little bit about what we're about to see in this interview.
Yeah, Carlos, it kind of piqued my interest. I talked with her a while back, actually. I found some information about her, and we got together and chatted a little bit. I just mentioned Andy Ogletree and John Augenstein, who were the two amateurs out of the six that made the cut at the Masters. And before they became big time college players at Georgia Tech and the colleges that they go to, they were high school players, and they were trying to decide what college they were going to go to. Now, they were probably highly recruited by several programs, but there's a lot of other kids out there, a lot of other high school kids that want to play college golf. They don't know where to go. They don't know what the process. They don't know what to look for. They don't know what they need to do. Her company helps deal with these kind of issues. And so, Carlos, go ahead and play the tape, and we'll talk some more about it after you're done. We are happy to welcome Dr. Katie Brophy Miles, the founder and CEO of Golf Globally. She became an LPGA class professional in 2014, but has been teaching and coaching golf since 2006. She received a degree from Indiana as well as Georgetown, and returned to Indiana to complete her PhD as a doctor in philosophy for human performance in 2018. She was a head women's golf coach for Georgetown University from 2011 to 2017, twice named Big East Coach of the Year. Currently working on her own business, Golf Globally, which helps high school students find the right college program. Katie, welcome to Back Nine Report.
Thank you, Fred, for having me.
That's quite a resume. You spent quite a bit of time, got a lot of degrees there.
I did. I paid a lot of tuition through the years. There were a lot of years I was enrolled in school, yes.
Please tell us a little bit more about Golf Globally and what your program is doing to help high school kids find the right university and get a scholarship for golf or for athletics at a university.
Yes. So I started my company. I actually bought the domain for my company when I was coaching, knowing that eventually I would do this. I as a coach, as an assistant coach and then head coach, I met with hundreds of families through the years who, who just genuinely, they were interested in the schools that I was working at, but they were also just genuinely confused by the recruiting process. And so I found that to be particularly a problem when I started doing camps over in Thailand. I was asked as a coach to do some camps in Thailand. So I had a number of kids from different countries in Asia who, they were maybe seniors, and it was like December of senior year, who, they really hadn't started the process at all. A lot of them hadn't taken the SAT. They didn't know a lot of the kind of base requirements necessary in order to just be admitted into college, much less to get recruited to play a sport and to receive a scholarship. So what I do now is I have students from different countries, and I have students in 12 different US states. Where I help them figure out kind of the best school for them academically, athletically, and then kind of from a personal perspective, what school is going to help them set them up for the rest of their life.
And you're the perfect person for this because you've come at it from both sides. You were a college athlete, so you went through the process yourself. You coached at the collegiate level, so you recruited and saw kids come in and tried to match your program with what you needed from a student athlete. So you understand both sides of the issue. Yes.
And in fact, this is one of the things that, I see a lot is a lot of families, especially in the beginning, will say, well, we want to go, we want to play we want our child to play at, insert top 5 school in the country here.
Arizona, USC.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And really, those kids in that, unless they are maybe the top 10 in the world, those kids have no business talking to those coaches. Yeah. And really it wouldn't be a fit. They wouldn't make the team. They wouldn't make the lineup to travel and be, competitive in that way. Maybe academically it would be a stretch. So, one of the things that I tell families is on the men's side, there are over 1,000 options, and on the women's side, there are almost 1,000 options. So if you really want to play college golf and you want to work for that, and you're willing to put in the effort and time and, sometimes years of research, then there's absolutely a place for you. And so, finding the right place where you are going to, as I said, kind of like prepare yourself for the next chapter of your life, whether that's professional golf, a job on Wall Street, medical school, there are a lot of options. And so if you really want to put in the work, you absolutely can find a place to play college golf. Yes, and then one other thing that I also think is important, and this is just in general, it's good practice to get good grades, because a lot of the time you would be able to pair an academic scholarship, which would a lot of the time rely on the combination of your SAT or ACT score and your GPA. And so that's another piece, of the puzzle where I've had kids receive $50,000 of merit-based aid. So that's something to really, really consider and to, make sure you're doing. If you're a high schooler, make sure you're getting good grades, and then maybe even retake the SAT a few times.
It's a really good point. A school like maybe an Ivy League school or some of the higher academic schools that maybe don't give academics or give athletic scholarships, or maybe just a small percentage, but you can make that up if you are an excellent student.
Yes, and you particularly see it in Division III, where you have a really good chance of earning some sort of merit-based aid based on what the combination of those numbers would be.
One of the ways that I became familiar with your program was that you had some charts on Facebook that outlined what a student should be shooting to consider going to a Division I school or Division II or Division III. Quite a difference there. Yes.
So I think what that shows a lot of people is how competitive it is at all levels. But, it's funny, a lot of the time when kids are looking at playing at a school, they're expecting a scholarship of some sort. And if you look at where those players are, like the number 1 player to the number 8 player on the roster, if you're expecting a scholarship, you can't be the number 8 player on a roster. You've got to be kind of that 1, 2, 3 player that's going to come in and make an impact.
Most college programs a golf program is only giving maybe 1, possibly 2 scholarships a year.
Perfect. Yes, exactly. So if you just do the math, they probably want to bring in somebody, and if they're offering scholarship money to that person, then they're probably going to need somebody that's going to come in and really, change the program around, or at least continue to make them better. And that's something that coaches will always say. I've talked to some Big 12 coaches this week who, that's kind of one of their main goals. It's like, I've got to recruit a player that is going to improve my program immediately. Like, hands down, that's just what I have to do.
Your company name is Golf Globally, and as you said, you realized by being in Thailand and that international students really need help in finding the right school and getting located. And we've seen over the last 15, 20 years that international players are pretty much on every golf roster in every college around the country. There's maybe 1 or 2 students from outside the United States.
Yes. So you do see that, particularly in the sports of golf and tennis. You see a very, very high percentage of international students. It's in golf, we have seen, especially over the last, as you said, kind of last 10 years or so, as golf becomes more of a global game. And golf is a really, nice, I want to say easy sport to recruit, but you have scores, you're not just like a player on a soccer team, or in a team sport, it's a lot more difficult to evaluate somebody's, how good is this person? So in golf, they're shooting numbers. We have a number of different ranking systems. Obviously, internationally, there's Wagger. I feel like Junior Golf Scoreboard now has a number of international students who their governing bodies or different associations are actually reporting through Junior Golf Scoreboard. So coaches are able to evaluate, okay, like one of my players from Thailand right now, coaches are able to see how good she is because she's got a ranking on Junior Golf Scoreboard. So, 10 years ago, that wouldn't have been the case. So that's been helpful. And in general, I think a lot of coaches appreciate certain aspects of having a few international players. And it does, I think, overall enhance some of that college experience for the kids from the US that are on the team. So you kind of get to know people of different cultures and people from other places around the world.
A couple things I want to touch base on with you. Number one is AJGA is such an important place here in the United States for college coaches to see kids, actually go see them play and not just look at the numbers. And also, Annika Sorenstam is put a lot of money through her foundation in developing young women's golf around the world. And
yes.
So bringing a lot of attention to some young women from other countries around the world that maybe wouldn't have gotten seen before.
Yes, so Annika, so we'll start with the AJGA. I mean, the AJGA obviously kind of is, you'd say, the gold standard for junior golf tournaments throughout, the U.S. The hard part with the AJGA, with this year in particular, was, and it always is getting into those tournaments. You have a lot of kids that might be members of the AJGA, and if they don't start early enough, sometimes they might not get into that many events or have to play in qualifiers. But I played in the AJGA, all of my siblings played in the AJGA. I mean, their tournaments are, amazingly well run, and it's sort of an unparalleled experience in terms of the way that they put on high level events. It prepares you for the next level. What's so cool about Annika and what she's done with golf is you look at Sweden and golf in Sweden, really thanks to Annika and sort of the junior golf pipeline that they have in Sweden and the national team and the support that those players have. Like, they were kind of one of the first pipelines of kids, international students coming to play golf in the States. And a lot of the time they had great, really good English skills. And if you kind of look at some of the early high-level women's golf teams, in like the 90s, a lot of those players were Swedish. And now, what she's doing to like grow the game globally, she's got her tournament in Sweden. She's got tournaments in South America now. She's got her college tournament here. It's, for somebody that's like, legendary and been an ambassador in the game, it's so cool to see, what she's done with junior golf, because that's, to me, obviously that's like the area of golf that's near and dear to my heart too.
Got one more question before we let you go today. What one thing would you like to tell prospective high school athletes when they're considering playing college sports or looking for a scholarship?
I would say to do a lot of research. You don't need to make a decision right away. You really want to think about those 3 areas that I talk about a lot with my students. So my students that I work with would know that I touch on these areas a lot. But you really want a school that's academically going to fulfill, whether it's you want to study engineering, you definitely need to go somewhere that a coach is supportive of you majoring in engineering and where they offer that. I always laughed when I'd have kids visit Georgetown, they wanted to major in engineering. We didn't have that. So really important to make sure that the academic area of interest that you want to pursue is something that's supported at that school by the university itself, but also by the coach. Secondly, you want to go somewhere where you are going to contribute to the team and you're going to actually make the lineup. When I was going through the recruiting process, there were a few schools where, it would have been great to say that I played for them, but I wouldn't have played. I would have been the number 9 player. To me, that did not fulfill like what I was really hoping for. And then personally, what school is going to set you up for the rest of your life? That's really important. You should be thinking about that. If you don't know, totally fine. I changed my major like 6 times in college, but you should at least be thinking, okay, we want to make sure that I will be setting myself up for success.
Been talking with Dr. Kathleen Miles and her company Golf Globally, which helps high school students find and get into the college or the university sports program that they're looking to do with scholarships and those kind of things. So they can find you at golfglobally.com. That's correct?
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Fred. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on and chatting with us today. We really appreciate it.
I'm sorry about that. I made them that way. There you have it. Dr. Kathleen Miles and Fred, I think I didn't know about what she does until now, but I have to agree. I mean, playing college golf can be it can be a wonderful experience. It's the goal of many junior golfers. But the biggest challenge, and I have to agree there, for the average junior golfer is deciding where he or she fits into the college golf picture. That's where she comes in with this. It's showing you really where to look for, what type of scores. Not only if the college that you're looking for is good enough for you academically, but really, are you going to be a good fit for it? I mean, one thing that is consistent with any high school player is really the importance of maybe a golf resume. I would say you have to give a college coach an accurate account of your golfing and academic record so that they can know how to place you, right? Like she mentioned there, one key thing that key takeaway is like, just because you play this good doesn't make you the 1, 2, 3 golfer, the one that is going to get those scholarships. So you have to take your time and build that resume and see where you're going to place yourself. So very interesting program that she has, very, very eye-opening for a lot of people that just think that's because I'm doing great here, I'm just going to go anywhere and have a scholarship.
Yeah, from the charts that she has, like on the men's side, you can see that if you want to get into a major college program, you should be shooting, in the high 60s, or if it's your home course, you should be shooting 60, below par every time out. So like a UCLA, their average player, shoots around 71. Pepperdine, which is one of the top schools in the nation, 69. So now if you want to go to a school that's, maybe not as big like a Winthrop or Northern Kentucky, you can shoot 1 or 2 over par and be okay. Um, on the men's side, you've got to be shooting below 74 every time out. I don't care where it is. You've got to be down there, because when you get to a really tough college golf course like in Inverness, where they have a big tournament every year, you're going to shoot 78 or 79 there from the tees that you have to play there. And Carlos, if you could put up the girls chart there, that's shows even more. Like, so if you want to play at Wake Forest, you got to be shooting around 71. So you got to be under par, to be even considered for something like that. And then the second part of this is in the AJGA programs. The coaches really watch the scoring and watch those tournaments. So you want to be in the AJGA, you want to be doing well. And again, if your family struggles with income and financial needs, they don't have the money to send you these places, they have the ACE grant. All you have to do is apply for it. If you have the financial need, AJGA has the funds to help you attend and play in their tournaments, along with a parent to make sure that you're okay and take care of you while you're there. So it's the AJGA, and that's the American Junior Golf Association, is a wonderful, wonderful program. And if you're a top high school player, and I can't stress this enough, if you have a child or your child wants to play golf, if they have any inclination to play or any ability, they need to be playing when they're in junior high, and as they go into a freshman in high school, they need to be shooting in the low 40s. They need to be practicing. They need to be working on this stuff, so that as they grow and get bigger and stronger, by the time they're juniors and seniors, they're shooting in the low 70s for 18 holes, or around 35 or 36 every time out for 9 holes. So it's a process. It has to start when they're young, and it has to build. And then if they are one of these people that's looking to go somewhere, someone like Dr. Miles can help them choosing the right college, the right situation, the right placement when they do go. A lot of team sports, there's a lot of recruiting services out there that helps you put together a video package to show to coaches and that kind of thing. But for golf and some of the individual sports, not so much. So what she's doing is a great service, and serves a need.
It definitely does. And let's move on now and talk a little bit on the practice range topic, which really leads into, it's a segue to what, from the college players, what you have, they're basically amateurs. And amateurs is not, I mentioned before when we were talking about Rose Chang and all the amateurs that are going to the US Women's Open, it's not only something that it's on that tournament, on the majors. We have seen it also in the Masters. It's part of that tradition. You mentioned about Ogletree and Augustine being the top amateurs this past weekend, and both making the cut. So tell us a little bit about this. It's very uncommon to see actually amateurs making the cut, let alone contend to win in the Masters.
I think I'm trying to think who the last amateur to win a pro tournament was. Was it Phil? Scotty Verplank won once. Phil won in Tucson. I can't think of any other amateur that won on the men's side. The women's side, we had Lydia Ko winning professional tournaments at the age of 14 and 15 when she was still an amateur. But it's very rare. It's very uncommon. Back in the 30s and 40s and 50s, it was much more common. Really, probably with Hogan, Snead, and Nelson in the 30s, professional golf took a big leap, and the amateur golf ended up taking a back seat. I think, was it 1954 when the match was played with Venturi and Harvey Ward with Nelson and Hogan at Cyprus. I think it was 1954 when that happened. That was kind of the end of the great amateurs being a force, and professional golf took a great leap ahead. But as you mentioned, one of the great traditions of the Masters is the inclusion of amateurs in the field. A tradition that dates back actually to the founder of Augusta National, Bobby Jones, who himself never became a professional, but was able to compete at the highest level of the golf world. In fact, the Masters takes great pride in their support of amateur golf around the world with the Asia Pacific Amateur Championship, which they have started and fund and sponsor, and also the Latin America Amateur Championship. And those winners automatically get spots in the Masters every year. So and every year, the low amateur is invited into Butler Cabin to sit in on the green jacket presentation and receive their medal for being a low amateur. No amateur has ever won the Masters, but 3 finished runner-up. Now, it's been a while. Frank Stranahan in 1947, Frank Stranahan from Toledo, Ohio. I didn't know if you knew that or not, Carlos, but was a great amateur player. 1947, he finished runner-up. Ken Venturi in 1956, and Charlie Coe in 1961. Later in life, Venturi said that Bobby Jones, would have made him president of Augusta National if he had actually won. And it came very close to that. The current chairman of the club, Fred Ridley, was a former U.S. amateur champion, competed in 3 Masters before he became a successful attorney. Many current professionals were the low amateur at the Masters. Jack Nicklaus, Phil Mickelson, Ben Crenshaw, twice, Tiger, Kuchar, Sergio, Hideki, Cantley, Bryson DeChambeau, and Vicar Hovland in 2019 when Tiger won. So Augusta National is committed to the amateur game. And today, amateur golf is merely a stepping stone to the professional ranks. Every year we see the top ranked amateurs in college announce their desire to test their games with the best professional golfers in the world. And normally we see this like right after the NCAA championships or the Walker, if it's a Walker Cup year, right after that, a rash of young college kids decide to turn pro and get their sponsors' money lined up and head out to compete against the best golfers in the world. This year that didn't happen because there was no spring golf, so these guys had to wait to keep their spot in the Masters. They had to remain an amateur, so they couldn't turn professional. So now that the Masters is over, Ogletree actually said in the Butler Cabin that he will be turning pro here very shortly, and I expect Augenstein will as well. So this is great for the top amateurs, but how did they get there? Well, most attend a major college program and improve their games against the top collegiate players of the day and learn to practice their weaknesses and mature and get older, stronger as well. Before they become top ranked amateurs in the world, they must first decide what college to attend. How do they know what's right for them? Well, family members put pressure to go to their favorite alma mater or school. They may have personal team favorites of their own. Or they may need some help. And that's where our guest tonight comes in. So, the things that these kids need to know are, what is the makeup of the team? What's the coach like? Will they get to play? What are the facilities like? And then international players have very little information about the United States, so they need a lot more help. But Carlos, the big thing I wanted to make about this is that amateur golf is really alive and well and probably stronger than it's ever been. I know we try to report on amateur scores from time to time. I try to make sure we have some amateur news in here all through the year on different events and tournaments and happenings. We have some close connections with the Amateur Golf Alliance, which is doing great things and supporting amateur golf throughout the United States. And these kids, it's a process, Carlos. They start when they're kids and they move up through all the steps. And being an amateur golfer and becoming one of the top collegiate golfers, that's all part of the process.
Definitely is. And we're here, like you mentioned, covering everything. And if we can do anything to progress golf anywhere, including with the amateurs and anywhere that we can find, that's what we do, and definitely will continue to do so. And with that, we'll wrap up our VIG, very important guest of the week, mixed with our practice range, where we talked about the NCAA players, how to get there with Dr. Kathleen Miles, who helped them figure out where they should be placed, and also about the amateurs and this history of them. And I have to confirm to you that the last amateur to win on the PGA Tour was Phil Mickelson, January 13th, 1991, when he won there in the Northern Telecom in Arizona, won by one stroke. So that's the last time it happened in the men's side. So definitely something that is not the same anymore. So now let's do some closing thoughts. And Fred, I got to mention that Gatorade, as you know, is among the most recognizable brands in sports, right? But the company hasn't made much of a splash in the golf world since they partnered with Tiger Woods in 2007. But that changed today because the world famous sports fuel company announced it had signed, you know who? Matthew Wolf. That's who they signed. So they're seeing something on him. It's been a big year for him. Just 21 years old. He's number 14 ranked right now in the world. Has 4 top 5 finishes in 2020, including the T4 at the PGA Championship, and solo second behind Bryson DeChambeau in the U.S. Open. So following Brian Crenshaw and Tiger Woods, he's only the third player ever to win an NCAA title and a PGA Tour event in the same calendar year. So, more than anything else, he may be known for his non-traditional swing, one that clearly is producing results. So we'll see. I found that interesting that he's joining a battery of young superstars on the Gatorade roster. Not golfers, but if you come to think about it, he's there with NFL tight end George Kittle, U.S. national soccer player Mallory Pugh, Sidney McLaughlin, the field of Olympian Zion Williamson, Jason Tatum, and Carl Anthony Towns. So his first project will be an ad campaign for one of Gatorade's newest brands, which is Ball 24, set to release this December, Fred.
Yeah, that ties in really well with our subject tonight. Matthew Wolf, as you said, first player to win the NCAA Division I individual championship, then turn around and win a PGA Tour event right after he turned pro. So he's still basically an amateur. He's a professional in name, but he's really just a few weeks removed from college. So they come out ready to go. These college programs really turn these kids out. Carlos, I just received a notice today from the excuse me, Champions Tour's Ally Challenge that's held here in Flint, Michigan, that they were able to generate $800,000 for charitable organizations in southeastern Michigan and beyond. We talked about the challenges that golf tournaments have this year because of no fans and not making the money that they would normally have to support the charities that they normally donate to. And this is yet another example of golf leading the way and still being able to contribute thousands of dollars to charitable causes, Carlos. So, and also want to note too that with the cancellation of Tiger's Hero World Challenge and the other exhibitions we normally see around the holidays, we won't see the big names really for the rest of the year, probably pretty much after this week. Hopefully the new vaccinations are going to be reported that will be available. Another one just came out today. Pfizer said they have one that's 90% efficient. One came out today from another company that said it's 94%. They're going to try and crank out a bunch of these things and give them to the public over the next 60 days. So hopefully there's an end to this thing. But for now, we have to be thankful. We still have college and NFL football. We're able to have 3 majors, the FedEx Cup playoffs, the limited LPGA Champions Tour, and the European Tour seasons to enjoy in 2020. And we still got a few of those left. So Carlos, want to urge everybody to check out Ohio Golf Journal Background Report TV on YouTube and Roku. We are all the great information there. We put these podcasts up on. If you can't, you can always catch them there. So travel information, tips, a little bit of everything we got going on there. Interviews with some of the people we've chatted to around the country in the golf industry. So, Carlos, we try to have it all for you.
We definitely do, and hopefully, you mentioned about that vaccine, but they're saying that they're going to start late December with the high-risk people. Then in the spring, they would have everybody else. So I'm wondering if we're going to have a Super Bowl without fans. Would you imagine that? Oh boy, I don't know.
Are we even going to have a Super Bowl?
yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens there. But anyway, Back Niners. Now we'll wrap up another week of the Back Nine Report. Thank you for joining us. It's always our pleasure to bring you the latest on the world of golf. Special thanks to our VIG, very important guest of the week, Dr. Kathleen Miles. Don't forget to see us again next week on YouTube. If you miss it, the audio version is on TuneIn. And if you haven't done so, what are you waiting for? Go ahead. Do it right now. Follow the show on Twitter. Our ID is at Back9Report with the number 9 in the middle. My name is Carlos Torres, along with Fred Altvater. We wish you to be happy, be blessed, and enjoy the great game of golf. Happy golfing, everybody.
We want to see you on the back nine.